Well, a little bit of a different background this time, but such is what happens when you're the epicenter of the college football universe on a weekend.
That's saying
so
a lot.
welcome into the week 11 or week 12? Week 12. Big 12 breakdown alongside the voice of the Bears, John Morris. I'm Kurtis Quillin, and John, we have a background.
You know, normally it's you and I out here and maybe a stray jogger like Mac Rhodes or somebody coming by, but there's a lot of activity out here.
A lot of activity. If you can't make out the background, that is the set for Fox's Big Noon Kickoff, which will broadcast live from the South Plaza at McLean Stadium Saturday morning leading into the 11 a.m. kickoff.
Yeah, isn't that great? I thought with Baylor's loss to K-State that this was out the window, but sure enough, I think there's enough equity and in TCU for sure. I mean, that's why they're here, 10-0. They've already clinched a spot in the Big 12 championship game. But equity in Baylor, and Baylor's hosted this group last year, and I think it went really, really well. So pretty cool that they decided to come here.
And like you said, I thought it was we kind of knew it was Fox or FS1 on Saturday, and I thought for sure as soon as Baylor lost to K-State, especially with the way Baylor lost to K-State, that this was getting moved to FS1 and this show would move somewhere else. But alas, here we are. They kind of it's one of those shows. They make an unofficial announcement when they tell you you're the 11 a.m. Central kick on Fox, and then they made the official one on Monday. But Baylor TCU will be front and center for everyone.
How about that? Big game, obviously. Baylor and TCU, great rivalry. 118th meeting coming up this week. And obviously TCU's having a fantastic year. TCU is really having the year maybe even better than Baylor had last year.
That's very true.
Yeah, because they're undefeated. I mean, they're 10-0.
And I know that, people have talked when we spoke with the players yesterday, it was, we'd like to do to TCU what TCU did to us, kind of end their playoff chances. It's a rivalry. If you tour TCU, which I did coming out of high school, they always tell you that, there were once upon a time 2 private universities in Waco. There's now only one, and you know which one burned down. And so there is that aspect of the rivalry, but just a fun atmosphere. And when, Brady Quinn and Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart are all here with Rob Stone, that's when you know it's a big game. But let's kind of explain how we got there. And, of course, we have to start with Kansas State 31, Baylor 3. For lack of a better way of putting it, it was a beatdown and a dominant performance from K-State.
Do we really have to start there?
I think we do.
Okay, fair enough. It was, I give full credit to Kansas State.
Yeah.
I mean, they looked really good. I mean, that's their game. They don't make mistakes. They're very sound in everything they do. Forced a couple of turnovers by Baylor, and those are you just can't do that against Kansas State. Didn't commit any turnovers themselves, and Baylor just did not respond. That opening drive was really good, but an interception, and then never really got anything going like that the rest of the game.
It's kind of Kansas State's offense is, I like to equate it to that 2018-19 Baylor basketball team in that you lose one of your best pieces and it reinvents your unit.
That's a good point.
Kansas State's offense, I would still say, is better with Adrian Martinez at quarterback. But when they reinvent themselves with Will Howard in the game, you can't stop them.
Yeah.
They're just dynamic at that point.
I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen all their games. I don't know that Adrian Martinez is that much better than Will Howard.
I'm not saying it's a big margin.
You're right.
I'm thinking he's got a couple more tools in his tool belt.
There's no drop-off. Let's say that. Will Howard stepped in, and he just did terrific. So how about having 2 quarterbacks that are that good, and certainly Will Howard was great on Saturday.
And you have to look at K-State's schedule and think, is this team 10-2 if Will Howard doesn't get hurt in Fort Worth? At the end of the year, obviously there's still 2 games to play.
Sure.
So let's go through 10. Is it 8-2 instead of 7-3? If Will Howard doesn't ready, that if Adrian Martinez couldn't go,
very much so. That's true. Quarterbacks out this year, and
2 healthy starting. Cannot stress that enough to you guys. But, again, there's something to be said about beating the teams in front of you.
Sure.
Talking about the game that we're going to be covering this weekend, let's go down to Austin. TCU 17, Texas 10. It is the lowest scoring dominant performance I think I've ever seen because, I don't think in the second half, once it was 3-0, I don't think there was ever any doubt about TCU winning this game.
I think you're right. I didn't get to see it because we were playing at the same time, but to hold Texas without an offensive touchdown. They're 10 points. They had a field goal and then a defensive touchdown. So credit TCU's defense also.
So in the past 6 halves of football, the Texas offense has only scored in 2 of those.
Oh, wow.
A touchdown.
Okay.
So that was the first half at Oklahoma State and the first half against Kansas State last week. They scored touchdowns in those. But in the second half of both of those games and for the entire TCU game, Texas has not scored a touchdown on offense. I'm starting to sound the alarms on the Longhorns at this point. Quinn Ewers, part of it is who they played. I don't think TCU's defense is a world-beating defense, but I do think it's more than capable of getting stops when it needed to. And I think Quinn Ewers had, hands down, his worst performance of date.
Yeah, probably so. Again, I didn't see the game, but credit TCU's defense for that, and really a defensive game. And TCU just got down in the mud and found 17 points and won to stay undefeated last week.
All right, let's look at elsewhere in the Big 12. How about this one? Oklahoma 20. West Virginia, I'm sorry, that's a bigger number. That's a 23.
23, right.
Wow, what a comeback.
Man.
Because this was 12-6 Sooners at the half.
Yeah, it's a great win for West Virginia. It's a great win for Neil Brown. Really good for them. And they're a different team at home. They're much better at home. And 23 points really below their scoring average at home.
Now, West Virginia fired its AD 2 days later. It's funny, I was talking to a friend in college athletics about this, and it's like you go from, well, maybe Neil Brown saved his job for a little bit by beating Oklahoma, to 2 days later going, he might be next. With West Virginia making a change at AD. Shane Lyons is out. Not the response that we were expecting to a win over Oklahoma.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I don't have anything to say about that. What do they say about people who live in glass houses? You don't throw stones. So that's a tough situation, and we'll see what transpires. Now, one thing I did hear this week is the interim AD said they're not going to make a decision on the football coach until a new full-time AD is in. Well, how long does that take? Is that a month? Is that 2 months, 3 months? And so that may prolong things long enough that they say, we're so far into this, we need to keep Neil Brown.
Well, according to reporting from that press conference from a friend of mine, Angelica Trinier, he hired, whether in place or not. That is fast.
That's really fast.
And that tells me maybe the wheels were in motion on this before, and maybe it was more of a walk up to Shane Lyons and say, we think we need to modernize. Let's discuss a buyout. And it was kind of more of a mutual parting and less of a firing. Gotcha. Of course, the term used by ESPN's. He used to work at Yahoo. Can't remember his name to save my life.
Yeah.
Pete Thamel.
Oh, okay.
Pete Thamel, the term in his headline. Moving on in the Big 12, how about this one? Oklahoma State 20, Iowa State 14. It was 10-0 Cowboys after Spencer Sanders comes back in off the bench with everyone in orange thinking, he's out.
Yeah. How about that? The savior comes in late and wins the game for him. That's a really good win for Oklahoma State. Iowa State had a little momentum going into that game, having won the week before. So a really good win for for Oklahoma State.
If I had told you that the quarterback that started for the winning team in this finished with a QBR of 7.4, would you have punted me to the sun before that?
Yes.
Because that was Gunnar Gundy's quarterback rating in this one.
Wow.
Oklahoma State couldn't move the ball through the air. Iowa State's defense, as good as advertised. I think the Cowboys completed a total of 12 passes, and 7 of those came from Spencer Sanders' arm in the fourth quarter.
Wow.
And so just not a great offensive performance. But again, they don't ask you how. They ask you how many.
That's right.
And at the end of 60 minutes, Oklahoma State had more points than Iowa State, and Spencer Sanders is back, and I think that sparks new life for this Cowboy team.
Very much so. If they can get Spencer Sanders back on the field, keep him out there, maybe for a full game, that'd be huge.
Texas Tech 43, Kansas 28. This one surprised me a little bit. Just not necessarily that Tech won at home, because much like West Virginia, in fact, I would say to a bigger degree, at home at least, Texas Tech is better at home than it is on the road. But just the way Tech dominated this game, especially in the second half.
Yeah, I would have thought a close game. I don't remember who we picked last week. Do you in that game?
I think I took Kansas.
Okay.
I think you might have taken Tech.
I think so, but I'm not 100% sure. But good win, really good win for Joey McGuire and Texas Tech to get that done. Are they a win away now from being bowl eligible? Right, they're sitting at 5, so big win there, and that'd be huge. In his first year there, if he gets them to a bowl, that'd be really huge.
When you look at the Big 12 standings after having gone through all 5 games from last week now, Bowl eligible right now are the TCU Horned Frogs, Baylor Bears, Kansas State Wildcats, Texas Longhorns, Kansas Jayhawks, and Oklahoma State Cowboys. One win away, both Texas Tech and Oklahoma. And this is going to be a crucial couple of weeks for those two because Oklahoma plays Tech to close the season in Lubbock. So let's take a break from the football real quick. There was a shocking result that I want to get, two shocking results to me that I want to get your input on. One good, one bad for the Big 12.
Okay.
Let's start with the good.
Okay.
Last night, without Bill Self, without Curtis Townsend, but with a heck of a performance from Grady Dick, Kansas comes from behind and literally steals a win from Duke in the Champions Classic. Impressive, and I think it shows that Kansas is a force to be reckoned with even still with this NCAA cloud over its head in not only the Big 12, but in the national championship race.
I think no question. I watched part of that. It was late, right? The game before it, Michigan State, Kentucky went overtime, double overtime. And so it was late, so I watched that one, the end of it, when I got home, and that's a really good win for Kansas. You know, on that stage, you know, with a lot of eyes on them and playing a team like Duke, and Kansas just seemed like, I mean, to me, you know, a lot of new faces out there, but they just seemed like the, I want to say more seasoned team, even with all those young guys going against Duke.
I think, you know, so I turned on the end of the radio broadcast as I was driving home. Varsity Network app, again, not a paid advertisement, but an app that I thoroughly enjoy.
I agree.
And listening to the Kansas crew call the game, you know, Grady Dick over here, Grady Dick over here, Grady Dick over here. And it's like he's Roy Kent in Ted Lasso. He's everywhere. And so I think a star performance, a breakout performance from your McDonald's All-American can do a lot of things to inspire some confidence.
Really big win, you know, and making it through this 4-game stretch to start the year without Bill Self. I mean, that's just a huge win. I mean, I think people would have said, look at the results there, had Duke won and said, well, they didn't have Bill Self, you know, and that was really huge.
Well, I mean, and you know this, I do a podcast completely separate from my work here at Channel 6, and I said on there, to me, this game comes down to coaching. And you have an assistant coach in charge of Kansas, and you have John Shire, who just put together one of the top recruiting classes in history, leading Duke. I'm taking Shire and Duke. That was my whole reasoning for doing it. And Kansas proved this isn't an issue. The Jayhawks are still without Townsend and Self for one more game until they get to their tournament. They'll get them back, I think, in the Bahamas.
Bahamas, right.
And then it's smooth sailing from there until the NCAA tells them it's not. The ruling from the IARP could come anytime between now and, let's be honest, next season.
Right. I see what you did there. Smooth sailing going to the Bahamas.
Yeah, it wasn't even intentional.
Yeah, that's very good.
The shocking result on the bad end, and I think you know where I'm going with this
I think I do.
Final score from Schollmeyer Arena in Fort Worth, Texas. I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, it was Northwestern State 73, number 14 TCU 72. What in the world happened to TCU?
Yeah, they're not at full strength. Mike Miles didn't play. Who's the other guy we talked about that's on the six-game absence? He didn't play. But so they weren't at full strength, weren't even close to it really. But still, you would think playing at home, playing against Northwestern State, that TCU would have found a way to win.
A team that's sub 300 in Ken Pom.
Wow.
Yeah. Or at some point in the season. Now, there's been a lot of fluctuation because that always happens when the computers get some data points in there. But this is TCU was a sizable favorite in the computers and just didn't get it done, not even against the computer projections, but at all.
And remember, first game of the year, TCU was down 20 to who? Arkansas Pine Bluff? Yeah. Down 20 in the first half and came back to win that one by points. So they're still finding their footing here.
Still finding their footing, and the more shocking result than that to me is the Lamar game, and they won that by double digits, but they won by 11. They were favored in Ken Pom by, I think it was 33. Lamar had trouble in its season opener at home with Division III Houston St. Thomas. Not great. So if there is a coach in this league that I trust to turn around a bad loss, I'm going to say Jamie Dixon's on that list.
Yeah, sure.
He's a great basketball coach. And so just some eye-popping results in the beginning of the week. Obviously, a heck of a week moving forward. Thanksgiving week, huge for those tournaments. We won't have a Big 12 breakdown next week. You'll be in Las Vegas for, I'm assuming, at least Sunday's game.
Sunday, yes. Here for the football game Saturday, and then headed out there Sunday. You want to go with me?
I would love to.
How about a nice trip to Vegas and back on Sunday?
I would love to. I got to talk to my wife, though.
Please do.
The Continental Tire main event,
Yeah.
one of the best MTEs on the schedule this year. All 4 teams ranked in the AP poll. Obviously, it's Baylor, Virginia. Scott Drew talked about Virginia and the tragedy there, and we'll have more on that later on tonight on 6 News. But obviously, the other semifinal is worth quite a few words of explanation as well, with UCLA and Illinois.
Yeah, it's a great tournament. I mean, 4 ranked teams, really huge. Coach said you're going to be better coming out of it, than you are going in, and no matter what the results are, that you're going to be better because of who you've played, who you've seen out there.
Yeah, and he talked, that's very important when they're agreeing to play in these MTEs.
Right.
But also, Matthew Meyer playing for Illinois and potentially against his former team. That's a fun story.
Yeah, it is. And Dane Danger. Dane
Yeah.
was here. Didn't play much when he was here, but he is at Illinois also, and reportedly is really getting some good minutes now. So those two, it would be fun if we saw them on Sunday in the championship game.
Big win for the Baylor women's basketball team last night. Obviously, Texas falls to UConn on that side, but that's a top 5 game, and you're no worse for losing to UConn than you were if you would have won. But big win for Baylor last night over a good SMU team that I think has a shot to contend for an NCAA tournament spot, a game you and I were both at.
Yep, we were there last night. Asia Blackwell went out with an injury, and you could see how important she is. I mean, I think it really affected Baylor in their rotation the rest of the night. So Baylor right now, the women, are playing. I mean, had to play most of that game last night without Blackwell. Sarah Andrews sprained her ankle, but she came back in. But no Caitlin Bickle and no Dre Edwards still. So they're, as much as they've added to their roster, they're playing shorthanded right now in November.
And just be glad they don't have last year's roster going through these issues. But Baylor 3-0, Maryland coming to Waco Sunday. That is a big-time top 20 clash that for some reason, did not get picked up on network television.
Yeah, a little strange because ESPN normally looks for Sunday games like that. I thought when it was placed on Sunday, I thought that was the reason that it'd be nationally televised, but not so.
Not so. Okay, moving back toward football, we are talking number 4 TCU and Baylor. It is the rivalry in Waco. Baylor on a bit of a skid. Last win in this series, 2019. That was Matt Rule's final year. 3 big keys. Would you like to start?
Oh, yes. Is it too simple to say to bounce back?
No.
Because that's a big bounce, from last week. Baylor just needs to bounce back from the loss to Kansas State and the way they lost, losing 31-3. They just need to get back to the way they were playing really the games before that with the 3-game winning streak. And you really have to flush Kansas State and move forward and be prepared for a really, really good TCU team. So I would say just very simply just to bounce back.
Offensive lineman Connor Galvin said it best. That was a really hard film to watch Monday. I'll be honest, I was kind of impressed that they watched it.
Yeah, right.
They kind of made them swallow this pill. Like, okay, guys, here's the pill that we all as a team put together.
Yeah.
Everyone time to swallow this.
Everybody.
Because honestly, I would have just thrown it out. I had my high school basketball coach one time. We laid an egg like that in a game, and he just goes, you know what? Go home. We'll figure it out tomorrow.
Well, you know what? We said that on the air during the game, late in the game. Ricky Thompson and J.J. Joe both said, I bet they don't even show this tape. I bet the coaches look at it, get what they need out of it, then they burn it, you know? But they did, because Connor said that. They watched the tape on Monday.
And so, bounce back, really good one. My first key, you're never going to contain him, but you have to limit him. And I am talking about the likely Biletnikoff Trophy finalist, Quentin Johnston, who hails from 30 minutes down the road. You've got to limit his touches, and you have to make sure that if he gets a touch, it does not break your back, and it's not an 80-yard touchdown catch. Yeah,
that's really good. He's having a great year, isn't he?
Is.
That is fun to watch, and he's been a huge part of TCU's success so far.
A huge part.
Yeah. All right, my second one would be I would say control the ball, control the clock, because that was one thing Baylor was doing really well in that 3-game winning streak. 2 of those 3 games, they had the ball. They possessed it for over 40 minutes.
Right.
And if you can hold on to the ball, meaning run the ball, run the clock, just control the clock, it keeps it away from that explosive TCU offense a little more.
And if you can limit TCU's touches like that, to your point, look at what Kansas did.
Yeah.
Almost forced overtime there, and you can argue that it should have with the 2 missed PIs on the last play of the game, but at the end of the game, TCU had more points on the scoreboard, so they got the win. That's a really good point. Mine is the offensive line. this isn't the best defense that they're going to play all year. I'd argue that all of the best defenses are going to play in 2022, except for the bowl game, because we don't know who it is, are behind them. Yeah. Iowa State played, Kansas State played, Oklahoma State played. You have to win the battle up front to be able to have a shot at running the ball, to be able to have a shot at controlling the clock. And I think that is a huge key, because the more you run the clock, like you said in your point, the less TCU has the ball.
Yeah, keep it away. Keep away, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really good. I like that. And the offensive line obviously is key to that. And, the running game for Baylor just took a step back last week. Credit K-State, but Baylor just right at 100 yards rushing.
And that run defense that K-State has is legit, and I think that that's a big part of why.
Yeah. All right, third key for me would be home field advantage. I hope we have a great crowd here. Now, Baylor next week, maybe y'all did this at Oklahoma State every year, but Baylor next week is out for the whole week for Thanksgiving. Did you do that?
We didn't do the whole week. We did Wednesday through Friday.
Well, that's what Baylor's usually done, too.
My freshman and senior years, I had professors cancel class or put one assignment, and so I flew home on the Friday before.
Sure.
Then came back. My senior year, I had to cover it. What wound up being the literal outright Big 12 championship game between Oklahoma and Oklahoma State in Stillwater. But yeah, we never got the full week.
It's the first time Baylor's ever done that. Okay. And so there is some concern that the students might, take off Friday, and skip the game on Saturday. But talking to Dr. Matt Burchett in Student Activities yesterday, he said the student ticket draw has been great the first of the week. So I think that's not going to be an issue. I think they're going to be here, and we need them here, and we need fans here. And it's 11 a.m., I know, and it's going to be chilly in the stands. But, man, we've got to use the home field advantage to Baylor's advantage Saturday.
I think the third key for me is going to be Blake Shapen just kind of shrugging off last week.
Yeah.
He didn't have his best game. He didn't have his worst game against Kansas State. He is not the reason they didn't find the end zone on every play. I mean, there were just a long laundry list of things that did not go well for them in that regard. But he's got to basically completely, don't even put it in the rearview mirror. Just take a different highway.
Yeah.
Get on a different highway and go a different direction. And just play the game in front of you. Don't try to force things. Don't, when it's third and long, coaching cliches are coaching cliches for a reason. Dave Aranda's 111th is one of the best ways that I've heard say, you don't have to pick up for the left tackle. You're the quarterback.
Yeah.
That's not your job. Do your job. If they're coming at you, scramble, sure, but don't force it in there. Sometimes the best play is a sack or throw it out of bounds. Don't try to force it into a narrow window and invite an interception.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a big key.
I like that. That's really good, and Blake is much better than he showed last week. But Blake, was just part of the 31-3 last week. So I think that's good. And I do love the 111th. That's not, me feeling like, oh, man, I've got to do more than my job. I've got to do three people's jobs. I got to do my job.
Right.
And if everybody does that, then that makes the 11-11ths.
Right. And if you've got a wide receiver who misses a block, go somewhere else with it. There's a way that you can work around that. But if they bull rush a left guard, there's nothing you can do in the skill positions. And I think that once you realize that, you make lemonades out of the lemons you got. You'll make lemonade out of the lemons you got. And so I think that's going to be a big key. I'm taking TCU in this one. I'm curious to see how close Baylor is capable of making it.
Yeah. I'll take Baylor because I think they bounce back in a big way. I think, they're embarrassed by the way they played last week, and they played so bad that I think our coaches are so good that they'll have them ready to play. There's also, in my mind, the factor TCU clinched a spot in the Big 12 championship game. Now, they need to keep winning to get a spot in the college football playoff, but maybe subconsciously they've got a spot in the Big 12 championship game. Maybe, not overtly, but maybe they let up just a little bit because they've got that already locked up.
And you're talking about the same TCU, well, not the same TCU, but the same university that the first year of the college football playoff, final week of the season, wins by 50, drops two spots in the rankings.
Right.
So there is the aspect of well, maybe they're distracted. And then there's maybe they remember 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And
and they've got a lot of motivation.
They do.
I mean, they're trying to get to the college football playoff. They'd be the only school besides Oklahoma from the Big 12 to get to the college football playoff.
And every time we've gotten close to another school besides Oklahoma,
Yeah.
Oklahoma either makes it or the Big 12 just totally misses it.
Yeah.
Elsewhere in the Big 12 Saturday, obviously that game 11 a.m. on Fox from McLean Stadium here in Waco. 1 p.m. Central Time, the most not normal kickoff time
Yeah.
in the history of the Big 12. 1 p.m. Central, ESPN Plus, number 15, Kansas State, and 4-6, West Virginia, a loss. And West Virginia is the first team in the Big 12 to clinch bowl ineligibility.
Yeah, to clinch it, right?
Yeah.
And K-State is rolling. I mean, for what we saw last week, they are really rolling. West Virginia is a different team, a better team they've shown at home. So they're trying to keep their bowl hopes alive and I don't know, see how much the home field advantage is worth for them.
We talked about clinching, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kansas State entered last week as the only team in the hunt for the Big 12 championship game that did not control its own destiny.
Yeah.
It needed to win out, and it needed Texas to lose one.
Yep.
Guess what? Texas lost one. Kansas State now in control of its own destiny for a Big 12 title game appearance. We could see an all-purple affair. It would be the first time that K-State had made the Big 12 title game since it came back to the league in 2017. I believe the last time they made it would have been 2008, maybe 2007.
Don't remember.
It was
somewhere in there.
Yeah,
right,
it was,
right.
It was recent toward the end of the Big 12 North-South division. Right. I'm taking K-State. I think K-State has more to play for.
I agree. From what we saw last week, and Coach Kleiman has already said that Will Howard's the quarterback moving forward.
Yeah.
He didn't say that Martinez is out for the year, but he said Will Howard's their guy starting this week.
And we saw how explosive that offense can be with him. And it's not even necessarily explosive. It's 15 yards here, 10 yards there, and it just it breaks you.
Just very solid. No mistakes.
2:30 Central from Lawrence, Kansas on Fox Sports 1. It's the 6-4 Texas Longhorns and the 6-4 Kansas Jayhawks. And is this the best game in the Big 12 on Saturday? Because it might be.
Give recent history, Yeah, it could very well be.
Jared Casey, who had that back-breaking caught the game-winning 2-point conversion in Austin last year, caught like an 80-yard touchdown at Texas Tech on Saturday, so he's a factor again for the Jayhawks. Jalen Daniels still not back for the Jayhawks, but they're getting better rhythm with Jason Bean in at quarterback.
Yeah, and Kansas at home, and they have. Was that last year when they won in Austin?
Yeah.
Was that just last year?
It was just last year. I know it feels like forever ago.
Right. So maybe they've got a good feeling about going up against the Longhorns.
This is an interesting game to me. What does the Texas offense do in response to kind of laying an egg against TCU last week? I think Quinn Ewers plays better. I think Bijan Robinson gets more touches and matches up better against the Kansas defense than he did the TCU defense. And I think Sark is driven to prove that last week was a fluke. So I'm taking Texas in this one, but I think it's close.
Same here. I'll take Texas. I think Kansas does play hard and plays well and maybe keeps it close for 3 quarters.
Regardless of what happens in this game, I'm standing by what I said. 6 wins, bowl eligible, Lance Leipold's Big 12 Coach of the Year.
Man, that's a tough call. Look at what Sonny Dykes is doing.
is doing amazing things.
I know.
The only thing that can oversoup that to me is if TCU gets into the playoff, and I will hear that conversation.
Yeah.
But it's Kansas.
I know. And early in the year, remember, they were 5-0.
Yeah.
I thought they were engraving the trophy for Lance Leipold then,
right.
And maybe that is the way it plays out. But it's going to be a tough call. I mean, that vote will be interesting.
That's fair. That's a fair point. 6 p.m. Central on FS1 from Ames, Iowa. Iowa State could be the second team eliminated from bowl eligibility in the Big 12 as 5-5 Texas Tech rolls in to face the 4-6 Cyclones, a game that Iowa State is actually favored in.
Tech feeling good about themselves from last week's win. Going on the road, Iowa State's really good at home. That fan base, I don't know what the weather's going to be. Probably not perfect up there.
Right.
But, man, those fans, they turn out. They are so good. Weather's not going to keep them away at all.
And you look at Tech is kind of similar to West Virginia. Way better at home than it is on the road. Tech is 5-5 this season. Their 5 wins: Murray State, Houston, Texas. Do they have a win on the road yet? I don't think so. They beat West Virginia at home.
Right.
They beat Texas at home.
Yeah.
They beat Houston at home. They beat Murray State, an FCS team, at home. And they lost to Oklahoma State on the road. They lost to Kansas State on the road.
Lost to Baylor at home.
Right. And so this could be a turning point for Texas Tech under Joey McGuire. But this is also, to me, the best defense that Tech has played this far in the season.
Yeah, really good. All right, so tough call there. I'm going to take Iowa State at home. I think they've got – I've said this for a long time. They've got a win in them. I think they've got another win in them. Playing at home, I would take Iowa State.
I'm going to agree with you there.
Okay.
I think Iowa State gets it done. The offense is improving.
Yeah.
Not just on the point side, but on yardage and the way it moves the ball and the efficiency of its drives. I like Iowa State in this one against Texas Tech. That again, 6 p.m. And then 6:30 p.m. Central. Is there a big game in Oklahoma this week? It is I don't even know who sponsors it anymore, but it is the Bedlam Series. It is in Norman. It is on ABC at 6:30 Central. It is number 22 Oklahoma State and the potentially anxiety-ridden Oklahoma Sooners at 5-5, 7-3 Oklahoma State, 5-5 Oklahoma. There is a podcast that I listen to for college football, and the joke, and it's not even a joke because 98% of the time it's true. There are 3 possible outcomes to Bedlam: Oklahoma by a lot, Oklahoma by a medium amount, and Oklahoma in a close one. Obviously, OSU won Bedlam last year, but OSU has not won Bedlam in back-to-back years since Les Miles was the coach.
Wow. Okay.
So, and it might not even be that recently. I think it's close. But if Spencer Sanders is back and Spencer Sanders is healthy, everyone who knows me knows I'm not his biggest fan. But I referred to him last week as my Lord and Savior Spencer Sanders because he turned that game completely around for Oklahoma State. I'm taking the Cowboys to win it, but I don't feel great about it.
Yeah.
I don't feel great about it.
Why is this game not next week? Why isn't it the end of the season game?
I don't know.
It's kind of weird, isn't it?
Yeah, Oklahoma State closes with West Virginia, and Oklahoma closes with Texas Tech. This is always the rivalry week game.
I know.
Always.
A little strange. I'm sure there's a reason. And where are they playing? Norman?
Norman.
Okay.
The last time Oklahoma won Bedlam in Norman, do you remember the game? 2014.
Yeah.
Bob Stoops punted to the fastest man in football twice. It was the Tyreek Hill return game before he was kicked off the team for an incident in Stillwater just a week or so later.
Wow. All right, so I am going to take Oklahoma State in this game in Norman. If Spencer Sanders plays, I don't know if we can put that caveat on there. Yeah, contingency pick. Are we going to do a
contingency pick on OSU?
But you hear he's playing, right?
I hear he's playing. He played in the fourth quarter, and what Mike Gundy said after the game was we knew he was available the whole time, but we didn't know if we wanted to try to not chance it and let him have the week to heal. Obviously, they needed him in order to win that game.
Yeah.
Because Gunnar Gundy just frankly was not playing well. He's a true freshman. It's to be expected.
Yeah.
Gunnar Gundy has the potential to be an All-Big 12 quarterback later on in his career, but I think he's playing. I'm kind of with you. If Spencer Sanders plays, I'm taking Oklahoma State late in a close one. If he doesn't, maybe this is an upset. Maybe this is OU's